The sun began to set, casting long shadows across the forest. Luka often walked these trails to unwind after a long day at work. But tonight, the atmosphere felt strange, an unusual silence wrapped around the area, as if the forest was waiting for something. Luka's heart started beating faster when he noticed a large figure among the trees, standing right on the trail. It was a bear, but not like any he had seen before. The creature sat with its back to him, head lowered, as if lost in sorrow. Its silhouette made it clear the bear was crying. A chill ran down Luka's spine. He knew how dangerous bears could be, especially at this hour. But this one wasn't acting like a wild animal. It wasn't running away or showing aggression. Instead, it slowly lifted its head and locked eyes with Luka. There was no usual ferocity in its gaze, only a pleading expression, as if the bear was asking for help. A lump formed in Luka's throat. Logic screamed at him to run, to get away, but something held him in place. I need to leave. This is insane, he thought. But his legs wouldn't move. It was as if he was rooted to the ground. Another quiet sob from the bear made his heart race. Why is it crying? Luka wondered. A simple walk in the forest had turned into the beginning of something incredible. Luka stood frozen, trying to make sense of the situation. The bear wasn't hostile. In fact, it seemed to be waiting for something. Slowly, the large animal got up on its feet and moved forward cautiously, almost gently, stepping closer to Luka. Paralyzed by fear, Luka couldn't move. He was torn between running away and staying put. Then, something unexpected happened. The bear stopped just a few meters away, turned slightly to the side, as if inviting him to follow. After one last glance, it began walking in the opposite direction. Stunned and confused, Luka felt that something extraordinary was unfolding before him. "What am I doing?" he whispered to himself. Was this madness or a call to the unknown? Something was pulling him forward, and he decided not to turn back. As Luka followed the bear, the forest grew denser. The shadows of the trees stretched longer, forming eerie shapes that danced in the thickening twilight. This is madness, he thought. But his legs kept moving, as if guided by an invisible force. From time to time, the bear glanced back, checking if he was still following. That strange connection, formed by the bear's gaze and its silent tears, dulled Luka's fear and replaced it with an unexpected sense of trust. "Where are you taking me?" he muttered into the growing darkness, not expecting an answer. The bear remained silent and determined, leading him along the path. The deeper they went, the more unreal the journey felt. The silence around them was deafening. Luka's fear had temporarily faded, but it lingered in the back of his mind. The path they walked was strangely smooth, without roots or stones, as if the bear knew this treacherous terrain like the back of its paw. Luka's trust in the animal grew. Despite the tension, he felt he had to keep going. Suddenly, their journey was blocked by a powerful obstacle, a raging river. Luka stopped at the riverbank, staring at the restless waters that looked deep and dangerous under the ghostly glow of the moon. The bear didn't hesitate. It approached a makeshift bridge made of logs and vines. The bridge looked so fragile it seemed like it could collapse at any moment. Luka's heartbeat quickened. "I can't cross that," he thought, watching as the bear carefully stepped onto the shaky bridge. The roar of rushing water drowned out all other sounds, and the fear of falling into the icy depths paralyzed him. The bear crossed with steady caution and stopped on the other side, turning to look at Luka. Its gaze seemed to say, "Follow me." Taking a deep breath, Luka realized this was a moment of truth. If he didn't cross now, the mystery beyond the river would remain forever hidden from him. His legs trembled as he stepped onto the bridge. Every movement was careful, every step slow. The wooden planks groaned under his weight, reminding him of the danger. A sudden gust of wind made the bridge sway violently. Luka gripped the ropes tightly. The bear watched from the other side, confident, as if it knew Luka would make it. His heart pounded furiously, but he kept moving forward. Finally, when he reached the other bank, relief washed over him. The bear, with the same measured calmness, continued leading the way. The air grew heavier, the tension rising. Luka sensed that he was approaching something significant. With each step, he was drawn deeper into the mystery of their journey, guided by his silent yet understanding companion. And then, through the trees, shapes began to emerge. Buildings, old, rusted, overtaken by time. Something about this place made Luka quicken his pace. As they stepped into a clearing, the sight before him made him freeze. Sorry for the short break. Before we continue the story, please leave a like on this video and subscribe to our channel. It really means a lot to us. Thank you, and enjoy the rest of the story. In the center of a clearing, surrounded by ancient trees, lay an abandoned circus. Once bright domes had faded, trembling in the wind. The metal structures of the cages were rusted, and the air was thick with the scent of decay and despair. The large cages were mostly empty, yet a few forgotten animals still remained. Their fur was matted, their eyes hollow with suffering. Luka was stunned. This place, hidden deep in the forest, felt both strange and unbearably sorrowful. The bear led the way, while Luka followed carefully, stepping over scattered debris, broken toys, splintered wood, and rusted metal fragments. Every piece of wreckage whispered of the long abandonment of this place. As Luka passed a rusted Ferris wheel, its creaking seats added a haunting melody to the already grim atmosphere. Everything around him spoke of the past, and Luka felt a deep connection between the bear and this forsaken place. Finally, the bear stopped in front of a large, empty cage. Luka stepped closer, feeling the heavy air pressing down on him. He crouched down to meet the bear's gaze. In its eyes, he saw something deeper than sadness, a painful memory. "You were here before, weren't you?" Luka asked softly, feeling a wave of sorrow wash over him. The bear gave a barely noticeable nod. This abandoned circus wasn't just ruins, it was a chapter of the bear's life, a painful past it couldn't leave behind. Luka realized that this wasn't just a wild animal, it was a being that had survived captivity and suffering in this very place. The weight of its past was almost unbearable. Looking around at the harsh, oppressive conditions, Luka knew he couldn't leave things as they were. He had to do something. Though the forest was deep and the signal was weak, he managed to send a desperate call for help to the authorities. The bear had brought him here for a reason: to start a change, to rescue the forgotten creatures that had suffered for so long. But Luka had no idea that the arrival of help would uncover even deeper secrets hidden behind the visible sorrow of this place. The air grew heavier as Luka continued to explore the remnants of the circus. Rusted metal, broken toys, and caged animals, all of it whispered tales of pain and despair. He moved toward the large, tattered tent. Stepping inside, he felt as though he had entered the heart of the circus. At the center stood a circular arena, surrounded by decaying seats, silent witnesses to the once loud cheers and applause. Luka could almost hear the echoes of laughter and clapping, now swallowed by silence and neglect. As he looked around, he tried to imagine what this place had once been: a lively, bustling spectacle filled with the sounds of joy. Then he saw them, deep, chaotic grooves in the ground. As if some creature had been forced to perform here. The bear, who had followed him into the tent, stopped by the arena. Its eyes, once full of life, now held only pain and memories. Luka stepped closer, realizing the weight of this moment for the bear. "You were part of all this, weren't you?" he whispered, looking into the animal's deep, sorrowful eyes. This bear wasn't just a creature of the wild, it had lived through a cruel past, entertaining an audience that never saw its suffering. Luka's compassion grew stronger. The silence of this place was now deafening, screaming of exploitation and cruelty. But above all, it told the story of this bear, freed, yet still chained by the invisible bonds of its past. Looking around, Luka noticed more cages. Some still held animals, eyes empty of hope. He felt an urgent need to act. The message he had managed to send before losing signal was now out of his hands. All he could do was hope it had been received. He pulled out his phone again, desperately trying to find a signal, but it was useless. Time was running out, and these animals couldn't wait any longer. He looked at the bear, whose eyes held an almost human sorrow. A deep desire to help filled Luka. "I will help you. I will help all of you," he whispered, moving toward the rusted cages. He tried to open one, but it was tightly locked. His heart pounded, he couldn't free them alone. The rescue team had to arrive quickly. As he turned back to the bear, an idea struck him. Maybe he could break the locks or find a tool among the ruins. But before he could start searching, a distant noise caught his attention. Engines. The sound grew louder, and a mix of relief and anxiety flooded Luka. He ran toward the exit, and soon, headlights pierced the darkness of the forest. Within moments, several vehicles stopped near the circus. Foresters, police officers, and an animal rescue team stepped out, ready to help. With his heart racing, Luka ran to meet them. The bear followed closely behind. "Are you Luka?" "The one who called us," asked a woman, a conservationist, her face serious, her eyes determined. Luka quickly nodded, taking a deep breath before explaining. "Yes. I found this bear, and he led me here. There are still animals inside, locked in cages. They need to be freed immediately," he said urgently, pointing toward the circus. The rescue team sprang into action, grabbing tools to break the rusted locks. Understanding the gravity of the situation, Luka joined them, helping to open the cages one by one. Inside were animals suffering from neglect, injuries, and starvation, some so weak they could barely stand. Those who had spent the longest time in captivity seemed unable to understand their newfound freedom. Rescuers coaxed them out gently, while the weakest animals were carefully carried. Nearby, the police examined the circus, trying to piece together what had happened. "It's much worse than we thought," one officer muttered, taking notes on the clear evidence of animal cruelty. Luka felt the full weight of those words. He realized that this abandoned circus was just a small part of a much darker reality. As the last animals were loaded into the rescue vehicles, the bear remained by Luka's side, as if wanting to witness the end of this painful chapter. There was a new calmness in its eyes, as though it understood its mission was complete. The team transported the animals to safety, where they would receive care and rehabilitation. As the final vehicle drove away, carrying the rescued animals toward a better future, Luka exchanged one last glance with the bear. No words were needed. A silent understanding had been formed. Freedom was won. But the journey was far from over. Now free, yet forever marked by its past, the bear would continue its life in the wild. This event had deeply changed Luka, and he knew his life would never be the same again. Days after the rescue, memories of that place and the caged animals still haunted him. The image of the bear's piercing gaze had changed something inside him. The story of the abandoned circus soon caught the attention of the media. Investigations exposed years of illegal animal exploitation. Those responsible were arrested, and the case was closed. But for Luka, this was just the beginning of a new chapter. He became a passionate advocate for animal rights, something he had never imagined before. The look in the bear's eyes had made him realize the importance of fighting for those who cannot speak for themselves. He began sharing his story, telling the world how a chance encounter with a bear led him to uncover a hidden nest of cruelty in the forest. Luka traveled across the country, joining campaigns to raise awareness about animal protection, using his experience as proof that anyone can make a difference. The bear itself became a symbol of hope and resilience. Photos of it walking into freedom spread across the world, a powerful emblem in the fight against animal exploitation. Even after the rescue, Luka often returned to that forest. He never saw the bear again, but he was sure it was out there, roaming free at last.